Good afternoon. Casual Exchanges podcast here, back with another episode, a new segment, even bringing it right to you. About 3 weeks after I said I was going to, I'm still working on the scheduling. Sorry. Um, New segment where we're really just going to be talking about life and the meaning of the universe. And just like worldly observations. I really enjoy that kind of thing. I really enjoy, you know, attempting deep thought and, you know, just trying to extrapolate the meaning of the universe and things of that nature. So, we're going to be talking about a lot of in-depth shit. Okay, this is my attempt at countering TikTok, rather trying to counteract in my opinion, some of the brain rot from TikTok. This is gonna scroll through TikTok for a little while. Then I'm gonna come over here and listen and try to create some long form, deep thinking content. This is my attempt at that. Stay tuned. Okay, this week we're gonna be talking about why we are all dirty dog fucking liars. Okay, in a way. Talking about intellectual honesty and what that actually fucking means. Okay, stick with me. It's a bit of a buzzword. We'll get into it. But for those of you way too busy to sit here for an hour, TLDR for you is we're talking, a couple of red flags, social traps. What the fuck does it mean? Like intellectual honesty, critical thinking, things like that. They're kind of buzzwords. And today they're just used to mean like, oh, you're a critical thinker if you agree with me. If you disagree with me, you're a fucking sheep. Bad motherfucker. That's how people use it today. Very dumb, in my opinion. So I want to go over a couple of ideas on like, okay, what does it kind of mean? How can it actually be applied? What are some of the red flags? What are kind of some of the social traps and things like that? Okay, and if we could take anything away from this 5-minute fucking intro, because I know you're too busy to watch the rest, okay, let's start asking questions at least as much as we make random fucking statements. I get it. We all say dumb shit, but every once in a while, we should also ask and try to empathize, relate, and put ourselves in the other shoes, the other person's shoes, right? That's probably a decent idea. Try to understand, if there's some sort of disagreement, try to understand, okay, what is the other argument? Probably in that benefit if we try to do that, okay? This is all going to be kind of with the underlying idea that we kind of fix our framework of thinking, which is then going to help make our communication more productive, which in my opinion would solve a lot of the fucking worldly problems right now. But again, who the fuck am I? And definitely want to talk about some of the red flags and stuff like that. I think making absolute statements, if you're the kind of person out there that just sees a couple of bad things or has a bad day, and you're like, man, this fucking world's going to shit, blah blah blah. Like, I have some thoughts on that. Making absolute statements like that, especially around really polarizing or complex situations, probably net negative, in my opinion. Okay? So, I'm going to be talking about all that and why the fuck any of this actually matters, which I already kind of alluded to. But we'll go ahead and finish up the intro here for all of you guys that are super busy. Okay? Now, really quick disclaimer is the fact that I'm not any sort of certified professional, not any sort of teacher. I don't have any credentials. I'm some random guy on the internet, so take this off with a grain of salt. I am not trying to convince you that I am right on these ideas or that they're even good fucking ideas. Okay, this is just to put something out there, try to put some thought into something, put it onto paper, and then hopefully promote some sort of exchange of ideas, right? Some sort of conversation anything of that nature. Just something I dig doing. Okay, so with that being said, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. If you think I am absolutely fucking wrong and you hate all of these ideas, absolute dog shit, shoot me a DM. Let's talk about it. It's all good. But I'll see you guys after the intro in the analysis portion of this video. Good luck, have fun, let's go kick some ass, and maybe have a good conversation. Welcome back to the Casual Exchanges podcast. Thanks for joining me on the analysis portion of the video, where we are going to go in depth into the Word doc that I drafted up. I put a lot of brain power. I was able to string along a couple of sentences, still learning how to read, so that was fucking tough. But I think we put something together, guys. Let's fucking go. And fun fact, I was just playing with my daughter. She was climbing all over me on the couch, and she told me that she had wiped her boogers on me, and I totally... It was definitely in the realm of possibility, but I wasn't sure. And she for sure did. So just in case anybody was curious, you know what I'm saying? The shirt passed the sniff test, not the booger-free test, unfortunately. But it's all good. I don't even think you guys can see it. Back on track here. I already kind of alluded to us talking a little bit of intellectual honesty and critical thinking, and how I think those are fucking buzzwords, so I want to get a little bit more granular. And I already kind of alluded to the idea that these are all... This is the beginning of the conversation. It's the beginning of a very large conversation, in my opinion, and I think it is part of one of the largest conversations, which is, all the different social and political issues going on today. I think there are some, a lot of it's kind of interconnected, and the underlying issues is the fact that we have a lot of fucked up mental frameworks. And so we have really kind of shitty ideas, in my opinion. Not only shitty ideas, but shitty ways of thinking about things. And I think that it all just trickles down from the mental framework, shitty ideas, and then we have shitty interactions and shitty communication. And so we can't solve anything, okay? So just a couple... I had written it out in like the TLDR, but I think it's pretty... I feel like a lot of people would agree, right? There are a couple of things that you need to solve, like an actual complex problem, okay? And I think if it's a large enough problem, you need people to help you, okay? I don't think there are very few people, maybe like a couple billionaires or something like that, right? But there are not a ton of people out there that could just solve crazy fucking world problems by themselves. You probably need some people. Okay. And you not only need those people, but you need for those people to, on some level, agree with you. Okay. Again, let me know in the comments if you disagree with this, but this all seems pretty obvious. Okay. You need some level of agreement that there is a problem, and then you need to agree on some level of the solution. Without those things, I don't know. I mean, I think that's where you end up, where we are in today's social climate, where there's just a lot of stalemates all over the place, and a lot of really unproductive conversations where it's just people just yelling at each other, just like fucking crazy people yelling at each other out in the streets and shit. And I don't think that's a productive conversation, not a productive interaction. Here's a question for you, right? How would you make the argument, right? Say you fucking disagree with somebody at Walmart and you guys both yell, and if you guys are both males, you guys are, this fucking close to fighting each other in the Walmart parking lot, and your girlfriends have to be the more sane people and pull you guys apart and shit like that. Like, how is that a good interaction? Explain that to me. Okay, like maybe he said something that offended you or something like that, right? So then uh, the only logical reaction that you could muster was to fight this fucking person. And then the girlfriends have to get involved and you guys pull each other away. It's like nobody is walking away. Like the girlfriends are embarrassed. You guys don't even feel good because like nobody got to fight. You guys just fucking argued. You know what I'm saying? And you guys are just walking away like, man, I wish I would have kicked that guy's ass. Like, it is fucking dumb all the way around. It ruins everybody's day. Okay, and those are the kind of interactions, to wrap it back into the conversation. Those are the kind of interactions that we're having on larger scales. Okay, on much more important issues. Okay, and we're not going to get super political or anything like that, but we're seeing it in politics. We're seeing it talking about the economy. We're seeing it talking about the labor force, on housing, much more important fucking topics than just the people fighting in a fucking Walmart parking lot. We see a similar interaction, even though they're not getting into fist fights or anything like that. It's just two sides fucking yelling at each other, and in my opinion, it's fucking dumb. So let me know what you think. If you agree with that, if you like fighting people in a Walmart parking lot, let me fucking know. I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear it. Maybe I need to change my ways. I don't know. But a couple of other things that we're going to talk about. Again, already alluded to, interactions that lack productivity. I think a way that we could, really start to work towards things is more evaluation around our ideas. I don't know if you could actually see my fucking pinky there. Fun fact, I broke this pinky last year. But trying to evaluate our ideas so that they're actually based on reality and not just feelings or something somebody told you, something you saw on TikTok, something you read in one fucking article. That's all silly if we're being honest. Okay, trying to evaluate our ideas and things like that. So we're gonna dive in. We're gonna get much deeper. First on the stop. First on the stop of the. We're gonna call this the self-denial train. Okay. First stop is going to be a couple of what I would call potential social traps, things that are really easy to get caught up in. And I don't think this is, I think this is perhaps a byproduct of the social climate. It could just be like a human thing though. So maybe this isn't something new. Maybe it's just something, that's just present a lot of the time. So let me know what you think on that one. But I think if people are overconfident, they're arrogant, there's not a lot of time to spend on this one, in my opinion. We all know people like that, right? Just think their shit don't stank. It's all good. But these are the kind of people that, if we're being completely honest, right, anytime somebody makes some sort of absolute statement around a complex topic or things like that, when people make like crazy off the wall predictions, you know what I'm saying? Like this X, Y, and Z is going to collapse and shit like that. Again, making any sort of really crazy prediction on a polarizing topic that is more complex than they're leading it on to be, I think you need to realize that like you sometimes are coming from a place of like arrogance, overconfidence. Like it's a blind spot, right? Is for whether you believe this or not. Again, you're making these absolute statements. So I think being overly invested in ideas, tough place to be in. This comes in a few different forms. You could be emotionally, socially, or financially invested in these ideas. And to tie into the next one, right? Like there are somewhat social pressures. You, if your goal is to be at all comfortable in your life, right? It is much easier to do that if you don't disagree with everybody around you. Okay, I feel like most people would agree with that. Okay, so there definitely are, different social pressures and things like that. But, two of the kind of blinders, or two of the pitfalls of these kinds of things, right? Is if you're only associating with people you agree with, you end up in a fucking echo chamber. Okay, like it is really hard to think that, if you and your neighbors and your 10 friends and all your coworkers, like, that you guys all agree on everything. It's like, man, I want to hopefully you live in a great fucking place and I want to live there. Let me know where you fucking live. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Maybe you guys are just all crazy transcendent thinkers and you guys crack the code. I don't fucking know. It's also possible that you guys are fucking delusional, and that you guys are just all wrong. So that's kind of, it's hard to say. It's hard to say which way you're leaning. And again, knee-jerk emotional responses, really silly in my opinion, going back to the idea of people fighting in fucking Walmart. And of course they're wearing like sweatpants and Crocs. No offense, guys, but that's just what people wear at Walmart. I think it's silly, and this is, these emotional responses, in my opinion, are just a red flag, which we're going to get into next, right? Some of the red flags. To me, it's a red flag that your idea is not actually based in truth, or reality, right? To me, it's a byproduct of, like, some sort of cognitive dissonance that you're feeling, where, like, you're having this reaction because you're realizing, like, wait, oh my God, this doesn't make sense. How fucking dare he? You know what I mean? So those are some of the blinders. Just to reiterate before I move on to some of the kind of red flags. Okay, if people have the personality trait of just being really overconfident, being really invested in ideas, right? And then really falling into social pressures. Those are all really hard, and I get that, but we kind of have to fight against them. Okay, we have to be able to work against those things if we want to actually be able to say, like, no, I'm trying to figure things out. I don't just believe everything people tell me, blah, 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 etc. Okay? So, we'll get into some examples. Bear with me. Okay, now, a couple of red flags. Okay, these are pretty straightforward. Maybe I'll get into depth into some of them. But if you or somebody you listen to or follow never admits they're wrong, my guess is they're probably fucking wrong sometimes. That's just my guess, okay? So never admitting you're wrong, it just tells me that your mental framework has some blind spots, okay? Because obviously you've been wrong at least a few times, but you've never admitted that you're wrong. So what's going on there? Is that an ego thing? Is that a blind spot thing? Is that you're just a fucking liar thing? Who knows? Hard to tell sometimes. If people are trying to sell you something, that's always a little sketchy, but at the end of the day, like, that's the world we live in, okay? People are selling things. So I can't fault everybody just for selling things, okay? But if they're trying to sell you that, their shit is the best, or this is the only way to do this, one trick that fucking doctors hate, blah, blah, blah. Spoiler alert, it might be bullshit. There's a good chance it's bullshit. Okay? If you are really selling something that is just head and shoulders above the rest, it is going to come out, right? It is going to come out. Those kinds of things, they rise to the top, man. Look at social media, the internet, things like that. Like, they've fucking exploded, right? It was, literally the new sliced bread. But some of these other fads and shit like that, you see them come and go. And for me, I'm always a little bit skeptical. Jaws are size. Just kidding. but kind of, right? Especially in like the fitness and stuff like that. There's a lot of fad diets. There's a lot of people claiming like their way is the best. And yet you see a lot of people get a lot of results off of doing a lot of different things, right? Which tells me that the guy trying to sell me a fucking carnivore diet, I don't know, might be full of shit. Not that there's anything wrong with carnivore. If you can guess either, a majority of their ideas on things, or you can guess a majority of the sources that they get their information from. So again, not going to get into it, but this is really big in, like politics and things like that. If I can, off the top of my head, say 5 things like, oh, hey, do you believe in X, Y, and Z? And you answer yes to all of those. Oh, do you watch X, Y, and Z media platforms? Yes. Yeah, in my opinion, probably not, a great sign. But there could be. I'd be willing to say that there are some exceptions to that. Okay, not a hard fast rule. If there's like no wiggle room in their arguments, again, going back to the idea of absolute statements, like nope, it's this. There is no. It's white. It's black. It's fucking. There's no gray area. That's always a red flag to me. There's a lot of nuance in a lot of different topics, so I try to keep that in mind. And there are some things out there where yes, hurting people is bad. Okay, like we would generally agree with that. Okay, but then there are also instances of self-defense and things like that, right? So even something is complicated or seemingly as simple as violence can suddenly become a little bit more of like a gray area where the circumstances do kind of matter. But again, there is always the in general approach. Okay. So just some thoughts like that. And if you ever get the impression that somebody has the underlying desire to be right, to me, that's a red flag. And frankly, full transparency, this is something I've been guilty of in the past, certainly in my younger days. And I think we're all kind of guilty of this in our early days, right? Like when we're in high school, I think there's just that, silly, I don't want to say debate team because it's not much of a debate team. There's not a ton of like thought or logic, but there's just this desire to be right, right? To prove that like you're the guy that's right. And so that's something I'm definitely guilty of. I was definitely much more concerned with arguing the fact that I was right than arguing good ideas or better solutions or finding just what is true. So that's a problem. That's a problem. Okay, like yes, some people are going to be right and things like that. But again, if your sole focus is on being right, all of a sudden you open yourself up to this blind spot. Okay, because again, if the truth is divergent with what you're saying, you would rather be right than be telling the truth or be seeking the truth or things like that. To me, that's a fucking problem. And that's that's one of the reasons that we're even going through this, right? Is I think one pretty good way of evaluating some of your ideas is exchanging with other people. I think exchanging perspectives and ideas, not only with other people, but then people you disagree with, having a healthy exchange. I think that's a really good way of starting to test some of your ideas. We'll get into that a little bit more. But so now just a couple of thoughts and examples as I fuck up my Word doc. Is I think another thing, and this is why this is all going to kind of come together, why I called all of us dirty dog liars. Sorry, guys. But we all kind of fucking do this, right? To some extent. We all have these kind of blinders that we put up, these blind spots, these things where we tell ourselves one thing that is not actually the whole truth. And I just want to make it clear that it doesn't make us bad fucking people. It doesn't make us, you're not a fucking liar. You're not a piece of shit. Like, nothing like that. I think it's just part of the human experience. And sometimes we do things, or we say things, or we convince ourselves of things that, are a little divergent to the truth, not entirely truthful, okay? And so I think one example of this is some of the double standards we create in our head. I think anytime, so this is really big, and I see this a lot when I'm talking about like finances or something like that with other people my age, because they're obviously, the main thing is like everybody's broke and shit like that. So like, I get that. Times are tough. It's all good. I totally get it. Okay. And that's why I try to preach, some tactics that are a little bit more along the lines of financial responsibility. And people will turn around and be like, yeah, I really want to buy a new car. And I'm like, I hear you, but that's a big financial commitment. And you just mentioned to me that your finances are about as stable as fucking quicksand. So like, do we really, I understand you want to, but do we think that's the best idea right now? They're like, yeah, you might be right. And then next week, I'll see them with their brand new fucking car. And I'm like, yo, what happened? They're like, nah, I think I can make it work. I've been picking up some extra hours, this, and that. It's like, if that person would not have given the advice to their younger brother, their younger sister, their whoever the fuck, their friend, the guy they met at 7-Eleven, they wouldn't have given that advice to anybody else. But they saw fit that, like, no, I can make this work. That's a clear double standard. And I just want to point out, I don't want to shit on people, okay? Because I do believe that most of the time there are exceptions to the rule. But one thing we all need to understand, turn up the fucking volume, we are not all the exception. You may be the exception to one or two or a handful of rules. You're probably not the fucking exception to all the rules all the time. Okay, we really need to come to understand that. Okay? We might all be fucking better off if we tried to understand that a little bit better. I'm probably going to reference that at least a few times. Sorry in advance. But yeah, a couple of examples of this is traffic. Who we become in fucking traffic. And I just want to be clear, this is something that I have personally been working on. As soon as I realized it, I immediately started to try to implement things to make myself a little bit better of a human being in traffic. Because if we're being honest, traffic brings out the worst in all of us. Okay? The percentage of reasonable people that are sitting in traffic on the freeway, astronomically low. Okay? This is anecdotal experience. I know. I was just talking all that shit about making absolute statements. But let's be honest. I probably have it worse because I live in California. And so we have, I really wonder, but probably some of the highest levels of asshole drivers. Okay? I am probably still one of them. I'm trying not to be. That's, that's my confession for the day. Okay? But let's just have a real quick moment of honesty, right? Just real quick, okay? But anytime somebody cuts you off or somebody speeds past you on the freeway or something like that, your immediate reaction is like, wow, what a dick. What a psycho. How dare he fucking endanger everybody? Where's the cops when you need them? Those are actual things. I hear everybody has some sort of fucking response when that happens, right? And then we'll be in the car and me and somebody else is driving and we're rushing around and they're speeding through fucking traffic. And I'm like, hey, you just cut that guy off. He's like, well, he shouldn't be going 70 in the fucking fast lane. I'm like, there it goes. All logic, all reason. 2 days ago, you were talking about this other guy endangering the whole fucking livelihood of the 99, and now you're that fucking guy. Let's look. It is all good. I'm not saying you're a piece of shit. I am saying you're not being honest with yourself, okay? And that's honestly my favorite example, because I think we are all guilty of this. We are all fucking guilty of this. So let me know what you think. If you are genuinely a good fucking driver, a nice driver, you're always just like, you wave at people like while you're driving to work, you just got, whatever radio station. If you're that person, more fucking power to you. Let me know in the fucking comments, because that is not who I used to be. You know what I'm saying? I'm striving to be more like you, buddy. Okay? Now, that's the first example. I think another example of this is anytime anybody wants to start a good habit, they want to start diet, they want to start, focusing on their sleep, they want to get a workout routine going, they want to catch up with old friends, that there's no time. The answer is almost unanimous. That there is just, just been super busy, this, and that, there's not enough time, which some people, that is totally the fucking case, okay? For the people working a couple jobs or taking care of a loved one or things like that, like doing shit other than working a 9-to-5 job, because that used to be me. I was just like working a 9-to-5 job. That was it. All my free time was spent doing fucking nothing. Like, I'd go out with my girlfriend. I would play World of Warcraft, do some dumb shit. I wasn't actually busy. I was not fucking curing cancer or solving world hunger. I wasn't doing anything of actual fucking importance. My idea of being busy and not having time was wasting my fucking time. Okay, and I think a couple of these things are really good for us, man. I think making time for, certain dietary habits, sleep habits, I think that is super fucking important. Going to the gym, obviously, probably pretty good, or some sort of physical activity, probably a really good idea for most people. And I think the most important, which I will admit I have been the worst at in recent years, just checking on people, man. Checking on friends, checking on, trying to set something up. And I get it. Sometimes we are kind of busy, and so it is hard to set some things up, okay? It takes 45 seconds for you to send a fucking text message, okay? Just to be clear, nobody is too busy to send a fucking text message. I'm sorry, that's not actually fucking reality. It's 3 letters. What you doing? WYD question mark if you want to add another 5 seconds. Nobody is that fucking busy. I'm sorry. Just a little bit of a pulse check, 45 seconds out of your day, and it could make the world of difference for somebody else. You could find out that person's really struggling or really having a shit day at work or something like that, and then all of a sudden it's a million times worth the 45 fucking seconds it took you to send that. We should all strive to do better. That's something I'm personally trying to work at, because historically I've been absolute dog shit. I was that guy complaining that I was too busy when I had no fucking kids, no responsibilities. I worked 9 to 5 and occasionally went out with my girlfriend, and that was it. Schedule's fucking tapped out. No, I was being an idiot. I was not being honest with myself, just to be clear. And of course, so another example extending out ideas to or extending out your feelings or thoughts about ideas to the population that believes them. Okay, so this is one that we really see. It's super fucking prominent in today's social climate, right? You disagree with this philosophy. You think it's a bad philosophy, and therefore anybody who thinks it is fucking bad. That's just not the case, guys. We there are hundreds of millions of people in the US alone. Okay? The chance that everybody who disagrees with you is a bad fucking person is just almost non-existent, man. So we gotta get that the fuck out of here. Okay? We gotta try to be a little bit more open-minded. That's what we're going to get into here, talking about good faith. And there's, again, just to really try to hammer this home, right? Extending that out. So thinking like X is bad and I don't like that. So then people who think that are also bad and I don't like them. Okay? And so then you create this framework where anybody who disagrees with you is either wrong, misguided, lying, or just an idiot. Okay? And that's probably just not the case. Again, hundreds of millions of people. And there is almost no shot. Honestly, if we're being honest, there is the chances of you agreeing with everyone about everything astronomically fucking low. So just let that sink in. Okay? Obviously, this is more prominent with polarizing, social ideas and things of that nature that, especially revolving around, things like politics, religion, and shit like that. But I think even in those really big topics, okay, somebody disagreeing with you probably doesn't make them a bad fucking person. Okay, so just try to really let that fucking marinate in your dome right there. And I'm gonna make another video in the future talking about when should we actually think that somebody is a bad person, because I think right now it's blown out of proportion. Again, the idea that everybody who disagrees with you is a bad person or a fucking sheep or dumb. No, I'm sorry. That is a dumb fucking idea. But I digress, okay? And just to really hammer that home, before I digress, the proposition that, agreeing with you is the qualifying factor, but between being a free thinker or a good person or something like that, fucking absurd. So I just really want to hammer that one home. I am sorry. But now we're going to get on to hopefully slightly more productive topics. Going to get onto what are things that we can do to work against these? What are things that we can do? What's the opposite of a red flag? I don't want to say white flag because that feels like surrender. What are some of the green lights that, okay, hey, maybe this person is at least trying to, be a free thinker and things like that? And then what are some steps? What are some things? What are some characteristics that we can work on and try to, bring to the forefront of our mind to make sure that we're trying to do those things as well? And I think the first two, I want to breeze through some of these quick here, but I think try to be a little more self-aware. I think we all need to work on this. I think it's something that's sorely lacking in today's social climates. Okay, just us. I think there would be a huge benefit if we all just tried to realize that nobody is free of bias. Not you, not your pastor, not, your fucking neighbor, not your boss. You know what I'm saying? Even these authority figures. Nobody is absolutely free of bias, okay? So we need to understand that. Everybody is going to have a little bit of their own internal biases, and it's going to be in different directions, right? That's the complexity of, we, the hairless apes, okay? So nobody is free of bias. Try to understand your own bias, okay? And that's going to be done in the early stages of you trying to, really think and be, have your independent thoughts, be a free thinker, try to critically think and things like that. In the early stages, that needs to be priority number one, is understand, like, oh, wait, I said this thing, but does it actually make sense? No. So maybe I have some sort of bias in that direction, right? And again, we'll come back to what we can do to try to work against some of our biases and things like that. Open-mindedness, I think, is huge. I think we already alluded to the idea that if somebody never changes their mind or admits they're wrong, probably a huge red fucking flag, in my humble opinion. Okay, the world is changing constantly, and maybe faster than it ever has. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. But it's changing by the fucking day, seemingly. Okay, so we have to try to stay on the adaptable, and resilient side of things, and really try to, roll with the punches. Okay, some things, and especially, I know it's really hard on polarizing topics in today's kind of day and age. But what I'm advertising here is, don't be so open-minded that you're just swinging like the pendulum, just back and forth. Whoever you talk to, you go to their side. No, I don't consider that open-minded, right? What I consider open-minded is when there are two sides trying to stay in the middle, okay, and just be open-minded to what each side is saying. I think those are different. Okay, and again, just to the idea of open-mindedness, ideas should probably change over time as more information comes available. And I think even sometimes people's values change. And I think the biggest example of this one is the fact that, again, 10 years ago, when we're 21, okay, we are totally content to smoke weed, play video games, you know what I mean, party with the homies on the weekend and shit like that. Your values are shifting. You don't have many of them because not much matters. You're just vibing. Okay. Now, 10 years later, I have a family. A lot of things are much more fucking important to me. Okay. It is much more important that I am productive, that I'm trying to work on these things, right? Working on my finances, trying to stay relatively healthy, working on providing for my family, things like that, right? So I constantly need to be working on these things, and that's been a huge value shift to where, like, before, like, yeah, I was content, like, working hard is cool, and it's always been something that gave me some, intrinsic values, but now it's out of proportion how much harder I work and how much more satisfaction I get from it. And now there's some more external factors that kind of drive that. You know what I mean? Next, we're going to be talking about the evaluation of our ideas and good faith. Okay, so evaluating the ideas, I think we need to understand that there are some things that we kind of already alluded to, but there sometimes there is true or false. There's black or white. You know what I mean? Things like that. But there are other times where it's open to interpretation or circumstantial in some ways, right? Which we kind of already talked about in the idea of like self-defense and things like that, right? Yes, we can say, and that's something, again, going back to trying to fight against the idea of all these people making absolute statements. That's why I think absolute statements are most of the time bullshit. Okay, because again, there are sometimes exceptions to the rule, and we need to point that out, in my opinion. Okay, we need to point that out that, yes, I am saying in general, for most people, I think this is going to be our best bet. Okay, there are also outliers, okay, in X, Y, or Z situation. I think when applicable, I think that's super fucking important to qualify your statement, okay? Or else people hear you say, like, this is the way to do it, and they think that's the only way. Because obviously we're in the internet age of just clips and shit like that, so people will see a 30-second clip and completely subscribe to that one fucking idea and turn their brain off to a bunch of other shit. So I think we really need to work to understand that. Okay? I think a couple of other things, okay, a couple of other layers to the evaluation is that I think we need to try to understand, especially on really big polarizing topics, sometimes we need to be willing to accept, again, sticking to the idea of trying to stay in the middle and not be swayed too far to one side, and just waiting and adapting to the new incoming information. Okay, especially early on in that kind of process, you need to be willing to admit, or at least to yourself, that you may not have enough information to subscribe one way or the other. Okay? I think that's really important because I think, again, not to go off on another tangent here, but I think it is too easy for people to go one way or another. And I think we are in kind of a. I think right now, instead of people swinging like the pendulum, I think people swing one way and then just never come back to the middle. They just subscribe to whatever the ideology is, and that's it. They're done. When in reality, they know almost nothing about the fucking whatever it is that whatever subject came up or anything like that, right? I think sometimes it is helpful to do the analysis of like, okay, how much information do I have on this topic? If it's next to nothing, then I think we either need to get more information, qualify our statements, and be willing to change our ideas. Or if we're in the camp of like, well, you know, I just like being right or things like that, then shut the fuck up and wait. Don't say anything. If you don't want to be wrong right now, you don't want to change your mind, you don't want to change, retract your statement or anything like that, then shut the fuck up. Don't say anything because you're not sure yet. You don't have enough information. I know that's a little aggressive. I digress. I think another helpful layer of evaluation is that it's okay to be skeptical. And I think this is something we're really good at when it's somebody we disagree with, or somebody saying something we disagree with, or somebody we don't like. I think that's another really big one. But I don't think this is something we do well in our own social circles with people that we generally agree with. I think we need to be a little bit more willing to kind of push up against the boundaries. You don't need to absolutely fight somebody, but asking questions is huge. You should be able to ask your friends questions on their ideas. And if they get mad at you for asking questions, that's a huge red flag. Why are we getting so mad? I asked 3 questions. Okay, emotional response, red flag. Okay? And I think that's really huge. I think that's a pretty, big one that I don't see a lot of. I think it's more of like a, if you have questions, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, we don't go against, whoever the fuck is the authority in like your social circles. Like, oh, well, not to question dad at the dinner table. No, I think that's bullshit. I think we should be able to genuinely have questions, ask, and try to inquire about, okay, that seems like a good idea, but how did you get there? I think that's an important conversation to have. Okay, let me know if I'm absolutely fucking wrong. If you guys disagree, I'd love to hear about it. And the last layer, again, I've already alluded to this, but we should probably be willing to change our ideas based on new incoming information. That's just my thought. Again, just circling back to the open-mindedness. And I think to kind of go back to the idea of good faith, which we, again, kind of already alluded to, not assuming that somebody is an idiot or liar because they disagree with you or just wrong, right? That's not approaching these conversations in good faith, okay? What I mean when I say good faith, right, is when you go into a discussion, somebody proposes an idea that you don't entirely agree with or you flat out disagree with, right? Not trying to lure them into some sort of weird fucking trap or some sort of weird, moral dilemma or something like that. Actually having a conversation revolving around the, facts, if it's that kind of conversation, but actually trying to hear them out, not assuming that they're lying, not assuming that they're an idiot, right? Actually exchanging ideas. Okay, again, that's really interesting. Why do you think that? And then try to go down the rabbit hole with them. That, in my opinion, again, is trying to approach those conversations in good faith. And I think that's the most productive way to approach a conversation. I think if you go into a conversation like, yeah, I'm going to prove this motherfucker wrong, man, like, maybe there's a time and place for that. But again, it's like, what's everybody walking away from? You were right at the beginning, and walking away, you still think you're right. Nothing in your idea has changed. So it's like, what is it exactly that we got from that conversation? Now, moving on. And this is another really funny example. Another one of my favorite examples, right? But in some polarizing topics, right? A lot of times, this is why I am a proponent for trying to stay in the middle and just seeing where the information goes, right? Is because there's always conflicting information. There's always different sides arguing which is right. And my favorite example of this is nutritional advice on social fucking media. This is fucking outrageous, and I can't believe when people fall into this trap. I digress. Turn down the volume if you don't want to hear me fucking rant, but I have to say it. Okay? If you take nutritional advice from social media, you would starve by the end of the fucking week. You would die. Okay? The first day, it's Monday, you go on, and the first thing you see, meat is poisonous. It fucking kills you with cholesterol and trans fat and shit like that. You're like, oh my God. Meat is fucking poison. I got to cut that shit out of my diet right now. Okay? I guess I have to be a vegetarian or some shit. Vegan. I don't know. Okay? Tuesday, you go on social media. Fruits and vegetables are poison. Fructose is fucking killing you, causing cancer. Blah, blah, blah. Fruits and vegetables are actually the devil. It's like, oh my God. I have to stop eating fucking fruits and vegetables, but also meat is poison. So I guess I have to eat, like, eggs or something. You're starting to really file down the list. Okay? And then finally, Wednesday comes and you see it. The Holy Grail. Fasting is the way to go, guys. That is it. That is the diet. Just water fasting. That's how I'm okay. That's what I need to do. Thursday, immediately on social media, what do you see? Not eating is actually making you fat. It turns you into starvation mode and X, Y, and Z. And so this honestly, it makes perfect sense why people go out and like start sunning their buttholes and shit, because they took the nutritional advice from social media. They now have to photosynthesize through the anus to get nutrition because everything else is fucking poison. I digress. I'm sorry, guys. But that drives me fucking crazy. I'll shut the fuck up now. I'm sorry. Now, to get back, try to be productive. What are some of the green lights that tell us somebody, or whether it's us or somebody else that we follow or a friend or something like that, what are some of the signs that, like, okay, this person's at least trying, okay? I think there are a couple. I think that their ideas have changed slightly. Like, again, based on new information, they're willing to amend their idea. Like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense, Now, I used to think this, but now I think this is actually more right. Whether it be, adding on some sort of qualifying statement so it's not such an absolute type thing, understanding some of the limitations of the argument. I think that's a really big one, right? Is that there are some things that sound really good and then in practice don't perform like we thought they would, right? So we need to be willing to say, like, well, we all thought it was a banger idea, and honestly, it just fell short. It wasn't as good as we thought it was. You know, it didn't turn out terribly, but definitely was not what we thought we were going to get back. I think if they can disagree with somebody in a productive manner and have a good conversation with that, I think that for me is a really good sign when they can engage in good faith conversations with people of opposing views. That to me is huge. And when I see people just descend into madness, especially frequently, again, every once in a while somebody is going to blow their top, and I don't want to judge people based off of one or two interactions. That kind of, in my opinion, that would feel like it goes against what we're talking about here today, right? But again, if every fucking interaction is just over the top, they're fucking yelling, calling the other person an idiot or something like that, it's like, I don't know, that's kind of a red flag for me. Let me know what you think. But sorry, we're on the green lights, not the red lights. To circle back to the green light, healthy disagreements and good conversations with people of opposing views, huge thumbs up for me. And another one, I just keep fucking up this word dog, man. So sorry, guys. Another really big one is admitting when they're wrong. It blows my fucking mind how many people get away with never admitting that they were wrong. Or that they were wrong, or that, like, again, something wasn't as good as they thought they were going to be, or something could have been better. Like, things like that. It drives me up a fucking wall, guys. It is okay. And I think to some extent, I think we have this social climate to blame. I think we are also part of the problems because we see, when somebody says they're wrong, we almost take it as like an admission of guilt. Like, oh, you were wrong, you idiot. You did something wrong. You're bad. Guys, that is not the fucking case, man. That is not the case. Sometimes we're fucking wrong. I don't know if you know this, but sometimes it happens to all of us. That's just the fucking reality, okay? Even authority figures sometimes get it wrong. You know what I mean? Sometimes they jump the gun. They judge too quick. You know what I mean? And I think we need to bring back the ability to not only admit when we're wrong, but us on the other side, we need to provide a little bit of grace. Like, yeah, you're wrong. It's all good. Let's move on. Going back to the idea of good faith, right? We also need to extend grace in those situations, right? Like if somebody is disagreeing, we're disagreeing with somebody, and we start to make really good ideas that start to convince them, right? Like, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think is the best approach. Do we, A, say, ha, I told you, idiot. I knew I was right. Or B, hey, you had some really interesting points, but have you considered A, B, and C? Or I used to think that as well, but actually, after I started digging into the research, I found out that A, B, and C. Let me know. I don't know. Obviously, we're in a bit of a weird culture, but like, you don't always have to teabag that guy you killed in Fortnite, guys. We can bring back some civility, okay? Let me know what you think. So I think those are all huge, guys. And so just to wrap it up, I don't think there are many exceptions here. I don't think there are good reasons to be intellectually like dishonest or to just like lie to yourself and let yourself kind of live with these blinders. Don't get me wrong, I get it. If there's any exception, let it be the fact that like you can only work on so many things at a time. Okay, so obviously there has to be some element of like hierarchy and prioritization. I get that. Okay, so we cannot always, sometimes we're going through shit. We're trying to get a promotion, or I'm having a baby, or somebody is sick, or a number of fucking things, okay? A billion fucking things. So sometimes making sure that everything we say is intellectually honest or critically thought through, it's just on the back burner. I fucking get that. I promise. If there's any exception, let it be that again, sometimes I realize that we just don't have the capacity for it. You know what I'm saying? If my daughter is sick and I'm fucking taking care of her and shit like that, and that I've been trying to, I stayed home, I'm trying to keep the house clean for my girlfriend or something like that. Like, look, I got a lot of things going on. The last thing I'm going to worry about is, some shit I say to my buddy 5 minutes over the phone when he called to check in. You know what I mean? So sometimes we have a lapse. But I think a really important part is when we realize those things, again, trying to be a little bit self-aware, but later on, if I realize I said something stupid, being like, hey, actually, that was silly. It was, short-sighted of me. I wasn't, thinking about it. That was a silly thing for me to say, or something like that, right? If we realize it after the fact, we should correct it. If we realize it in the moment, we should be willing to correct it. And for me, this is something, again, that I am working on rigorously. Okay? Like, I've changed my mind on a shitload of things over the past 10 years. I used to be somebody who, didn't really see the value in higher education and things like that, right? Something I've changed my view on. I thought that a lot of our education and stuff like that was completely useless, okay? I was somebody who didn't really, I didn't do terribly in school, but I didn't put a whole lot of, effort into it. It just, there wasn't a whole lot of interest for me. There was, a bunch of other shit going on in the household and things like that. So for me, it was just the least of my problems. I was trying to survive the home life, play World of Warcraft. I was just not worried about school, right? And of course, like every other 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old, I thought that I was doing just fine. I thought I was smart enough to get by and things like that. And I was smart, despite putting, no effort into school. So how valuable can it be? I have changed my mind. I think that school is absolutely a fucking value, especially higher education, to other people, to people who know what they want and things like that. My siblings pursuing their MBA. My dad in the past couple of years went back and got his BA and things like that. I think there are, and I have a couple of friends. I have one friend who has fucking some sort of master's, several bachelors, several associates, fucking more degrees than I could put on the wall behind me. Okay, so there's definitely value, and it definitely does some things for some people. But again, do I think it is the answer for everybody? No. And I think it's important to qualify that, or else then suddenly I think I'm a loser for not attending college. I am a loser for many reasons. Because I didn't go to college, probably towards the bottom of the list, okay? So let me know what you guys think. Again, I am not trying to tell you guys to go out and be fucking free-thinking warriors and fight fucking grandma at Thanksgiving because she's not willing to change her mind on something. No, dude, I get it. Everything in moderation. What I'm saying, I'm not saying you should fight everybody. I'm saying be willing to push up against the guardrails of not only your ideas, but other people's ideas. Be willing to ask questions. Be willing to realize when you recognize a red flag in somebody that you think is an authority on a topic. Okay? Be willing to do some of these things. Again, just to really tie into the idea of open-mindedness and to really further my fucking rant. I've been going for an hour now, and my family just left me. They got tired of waiting for me to finish up this video. If you guys stuck around this long, thank you guys so much. If you liked it, this is the content we're going to be doing from now on. If you didn't like it, this is the last time we do this kind of content. Obviously, I'm kidding. Hopefully you guys liked it. Let me know what you think. Anything you disagree with me on, fuck it. Drop it in the comments. Shoot me a DM. Anything. I'm going to be linking this Word doc, and that way you guys can take it and cross out everything you think I'm a fucking idiot on. Let me know what you guys think. This is all to start conversations. Again, I want other people to push up against my ideas And I want to figure out where I could be, a little bit more honest with myself, which of my ideas could be a little bit better framed. All of that shit, I'm super into it. And it's because I think that's how we get to more productive conversations. And I think that's how we get to solving more complex problems. Let me know what you think. Thanks again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, follow Casual Exchanges podcast on all platforms. It would be greatly appreciated. Share with all your friends. If you hated it, don't forget to watch at 4 times speed. Anyways, that way you get through it faster and you don't waste your time, but you're still helping me on the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? But thanks, guys. We got to wrap it up. Good luck. Have fun. Let's go kick some ass. Thanks for joining us.